If you're like me and you have repeated the same cycles year after year, only hoping that this year's going to be different because you have some new piece of information that's going to make it different, you have some new strategy, some new plan, you mean it this time. You didn't really mean it the other times, but this time you really, really mean it. Just like every other year that you really, really, really meant it. So, what's different? If you can't get to a place of integrity, which no one teaches us how to do, our society thrives off of us being in survival. Capitalism needs consumers. And when you're constantly surviving, you have to buy things in order to feel better. When you get to thriving, then you're more of like a creator, you're producing. It takes a lot of courage to let go of the limiting beliefs and behaviors, to forgive yourself for not being where you want to be, to accept and acknowledge you're not where you want to be. You need to eventually get to the point where you have healthy boundaries so the relationships you have can grow and flourish instead of keeping you in this cycle of negativity. I believe that my friends that took their own lives lacked the awareness that they were causing their own problems. It's much easier to blame away. It's a coping mechanism to blame because if you can blame away, it's not your fault. You don't have to change. It takes a lot of accountability. It's not always nice to look at. As soon as you accept the responsibility, you acknowledge you're not where you want to be, you start changing a little bit at a time, you get the limiting beliefs under control, you have this vulnerability again, you'll be able to flourish. Once you get to integrity, once you conquer that shame, that unworthiness, that disconnect, everything above that, you really begin spiritual living. You feel more connected. You're able to grieve properly and you don't get stuck in terrible cycles of grief. You can have a lull, a dip in energy without being super apathetic. You don't have to live in fear anymore in a negative way because fear can be great, you know? The desires you have in your life aren't run by the destination of once I accomplish this, once I get the job, the career, I finish school, I get married, I have kids, then I'll be happy. You learn to be happy in the moment. Once you can conquer the anger, even righteous anger, you can let go of the need to be right and correct. There doesn't have to be this struggle of my perspective is the right perspective because that's not true. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, perspective. There's different ways of looking at things. There's not the same truth. You can use facts to prove anything you want. Any viewpoint can take facts and say, hey, this is the facts, though. Facts don't mean anything, honestly. At the end of the day, a fact is like a statistic. If I want to make something look like this, I can shape and use the facts that I want to support my viewpoint. And when you show me facts that are against that viewpoint, does that mean my viewpoint's wrong? Or that life is more complicated than just one viewpoint? You can see very quickly where you become hypocritical for any stance that you have because if you go along your life, like say you're a vegan, but you still drive a car. Well, what about all those insects you're destroying? You see what I'm saying? Splatting against the windshield? Shouldn't you just walk everywhere? That's not even practical. So you can see we're having an identity very quickly. There's always a way to point out why something isn't something. That's why everybody's wasting a bunch of time arguing about nothing. So once you surpass all that bullshit, you get into spiritual living, you have the acceptance and the courage, you get into the peace and the love and the fulfillment, the joy. You find your passions. You can listen to your intuition. That inner feeling of like, I think I need this to be happy in order to survive is never really going to bring you anywhere except to the next empty moment. But when you get to the point where you conquer those limiting emotions, your intuition becomes the internal guidance system of this greater cosmos, of God. That internal guidance, your intuition, will lead you to your own destiny, so to speak. You know, your path that you walk. And if you listen to it, you can have the faith that's necessary to go through the hard times with a smile on your face and not feel victimized. So these first two courses first two phases, really, the first two phases of like my whole program. Because if you can't get integrity and do what you say you're going to do, you're never going to be able to eat right, work out properly. You're not going to stick to any kind of regimen. You're not going to learn an instrument. You're not going to learn a new language. You're not going to learn some new skill. You're going to give up because it's going to get hard. And just like everything else, there's a new shiny thing and you start chasing new stuff. So when you're able to become a person of integrity, there's the course with the modules, and then there's the foundational videos. The foundational videos are more of an explanation. The course videos is about you being able to learn to ask the right questions, and then you have to figure things out. It's about doing the work. I can't tell you how to live your life. You have to figure that out for yourself, because if you're always listening to other people, you're always going to be miserable, because no one can live your life for you and nobody knows what they're really doing. You have to follow your own internal guidance system. So my goal that I can promise you, if you do the work, is you will be able to clean the lens, so to speak, of your intuition by gaining integrity and beginning to live spiritually. There will be no reason to be depressed or to think life's unfair or to get to the point where so many people end their own life because they just think that this whole existence sucks. So you can jump into the proverbial fire and allow yourself to become new. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.